Yeah. Can I drink?
Hello, everybody from the beautiful city of Melbourne, from my very own house. Those of you that are following the news will know that Melbourne's back in lockdown as of last week. So we are back at working from home, working remotely, and we're all in pretty good spirits. We're tired, we're grumpy, all of that, but we're trying to do our best. So everyone is doing a lot of Zoom calls and a lot of online communication, a lot of phone calls. And we were just discussing before we came on air something that I call Zoom phase. So it's that concentrated phase that you get before you come online. So hopefully you didn't see it. Hopefully you saw us smiling. Behind the scenes, as always, I wanted to welcome our wonderful Andrea, who sets it all up and makes sure that everything runs properly as it is. But on the other side of the world, on the other screen, you can see our Paulina. Hello, good morning to you, Paulina. You are now in Poland. So let me tell you where Paulina's been. Paulina's been in Japan. So those of you that have worked with her recently may know this, may not know this. When did you arrive in Warsaw, Paulina?
After 46 hours of traveling, I was in Warsaw on Saturday, 10 p.m.
Wow.
So I'm still adjusting.
And is it good to be back home?
Right now it's really strange. I feel like a cultural shock after 9 months of being in Japan. So listening to the Polish language again is really strange because I haven't been here in 3 years. So yeah, but I think like slowly it will get normal again.
Yeah, of course it will. And I think part of it is jet lag because of course there's 8 hours difference between Japan or 6?
Yes, 7 hours,
7 hours. Okay.
Between Japan, 8 hours between Australia.
But you are a bit of a digital nomad anyway. So this is your second stint with Polaron and you're very used to working remotely. So this is nothing new and you're not phased and you're loving it, yes?
Yes, this gives me a lot of freedom working remotely. So yeah, and this is the second time working for Polaron. The first time I was working at the office, but I really am more focused when I'm alone in my room. So it's way better for me.
It is true that you tend to be a bit more focused. You can concentrate, and the only thing is that the human contact is a bit hard to maintain, and it's always good to see colleagues you work with face to face, but we don't have that luxury since about March anyway. So there you go.
Yes.
Tell us about what you actually do at Polaron, because I think your role actually is so key and so essential to the coordination. You're a bit like a traffic controller, I guess. Is that a good way to describe it, do you think?
Yes, I think so. I'm the main contact between the client and the researchers, and I have to just have everything in control, keep up with what is going on with the cases. So following up with researchers and then informing the clients in between 6 to 8 weeks what is going on. Are we still waiting for some documents from the archive? So, and I have to keep constant control over is everything okay? Can we follow up with this archive because we are waiting already 5 months for an answer sometimes with the archives. So yeah.
And of course, you have a pretty big caseload. And what that means is that you'd be at any given time probably coordinating about 300 clients. Is that about right?
Yes. And it takes time because I have to look in all the folders, all their documents, the family trees to analyze if we have everything. And maybe sometimes the researchers tell me can you please ask the client, has he, for example, a death certificate for his grandfather or something? So it's a constant flow of information, of questions and just non-stop work. So
yeah. And of course we'd like to be so across everything for every single client that being really well organized and having everything really well documented is really key to what we do. Because if you those that are listening, if you imagine Paulina's role is to be a traffic controller, so between clients that are waiting patiently for research outcomes and researchers in different countries through different archives. And also sometimes what happens is that we get questions from either the voivodeship office or maybe the archives, or all the responses come back negative. So it's up to Paulina then to squeeze everything out of everybody, so that when we talk to the clients, we always give them good news. And of course, it's not always good news, because this work is pretty challenging. So what we've done today, and thank you so much, Paulina, for that introduction. Paulina is very well organized, and having worked remotely for a number of years, she's a dab hand at coordination, but also knowing what's going on in your case. So now that you've seen her face, those of you that haven't met her, that's Paulina. So what we're going to do now, though, which is the main cause of today, I guess, is have a look at a few websites. So I might ask Andrea to make me a presenter, because what we really wanted to share with you is a few resources that anybody can look up. And anyone can actually go to those websites that I'm about to show you and have a go at researching. So some of them are a little bit clunky, some of them are a bit tricky to use if you don't speak Polish, but we'll show them to you anyway. So I'll just hand over to
you
Andrea.
should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, let me have a look. So can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. The beautiful wonders of technology. And I am sharing my screen now. How about that?
Yes, perfect.
Yay.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I have prepared a few websites that we want to share with you. And with Paulina, we're going to show you what kinds of things you can find on them. But the first thing I wanted to say to everyone is that research is a journey. And I think Paulina will agree with me when I say that often what matters is what we don't find, what we can read between the lines, what we can read amongst the documents. Often the documents come in different languages, and they're not quite what we're looking for. So it's like a detective work. Would you say that it's, do you feel like an investigator sometimes?
Yes, and sometimes we look for one document and the archive just sends us a different one about a sibling of the person that we are looking for, actually. So it's not always that obvious. And yeah, and then I have a lot of questions. Why didn't you find the birth certificate when it's obviously it should be there, but actually it's not that obvious. So yeah, it's a bit, and it's a journey.
It is a journey, and I think someone's birth certificate that's not your direct ancestor can give us a lot of clues, of course, and it's not always bad news, but we need to remember that we are going back 100 or more years to a country that was destroyed during the war. And record keeping wasn't so fantastic back then. A lot of people's birth certificates were never registered, for example, because their parents forgot or they were destroyed. So that journey that we're talking about is, I can't emphasize enough that it is a journey, and everyone's journey will be different. So now moving on to what I prepared earlier. So this is actually quite a wonderful website. And it's only ever good for people that whose ancestors came to Australia. But if your family is Australian, there's an amazing set of records here. And it is National Archives of Australia. So you've seen there that I clicked on record search. And here you can put in a keyword such as someone's name. So I will show you my maiden name. Not many people know this, not many people care, is Marcinkowska. So I don't know what's come up on my screen. Beautiful wonders of technology. Go away. No, okay, cool. So let's have a look. And I'll move us. Okay, so what you can see here is, and Australian archives are one of the best in the world, because not only they've got everything on everybody, they've got a lot of things digitalized. So when you are looking for your family information or documentation, it's often a really, really good starting point. So I don't know if I come up here. Yes, that's me. Look, so I came here in 1985 to Australia, and there's a whole bunch of records on me that I don't know what they are because they're not yet examined, and they're kept in Canberra. So it's probably my arrival papers, who knows what it is. And this is my mother, Christina. And again, she came here in 1988, so a year after me, and it's not yet examined. So looking at the status of the files that are listed is really important, because some are open, right? Some are not examined. Others, sometimes you'll see that are open with exception, which means that there's something in the file that the Australian government cannot yet make available. And any records like this, after 30 years, they're publicly available. So things about people's arrival or immigration, naturalization, all of it is here. The one thing that sorry, I'm just going to move us off the screen, that I cannot show you is digital versions of things. So I'm going to start with a different name to see if we can find anything. Yeah, there you go. So wherever you see this symbol, that means things have been digitalized. And there are other, Marcinkovsky is a pretty popular surname. So here you will see what kinds of things you can find on your ancestors if your ancestors ever came to Australia. And this has got so much information. And there's so much you can read between the lines here. So for example, this person was born in Krakow and she was Polish, but she lived in Germany just prior to arriving in Australia. She came here on a passport. So these are her immigration folios. And sometimes, and I'll show you in a moment, sometimes there are many, many more pages. Let's have a look at what this was. So similar, and they arrived together. So we know that there were a couple. And let's have a look at Barbara. So these people came as a family. So what I will look for, maybe this one here, Piotr. All right, so you find amazing, amazing things like people's photos, people's signatures. And, people's signatures can tell you so much about a person. They can, they can tell you about their level of education. They can tell you all kinds of things that you will find useful and kind of endearing, because, a lot of the time these ancestors are gone. Maybe you've never met them, but through this documentation, you'll be able to see a lot of the things that you didn't know. So, for example, Piotr was 163 centimeters tall and had dark hair. But you can see here that there's 37 pages of various records, including medical records. It's just amazing what you find. And there's description of, their travels, how they ended up in Germany, because this particular family came to Australia by Germany. That he was married, what his wife's name was, what languages he spoke. So these documents were created prior to people coming to Australia. So I would strongly encourage you, if your family ever, came to Australia, to go through this, and you'll be amazed at what you can find in here. So because we don't have a lot of time, I'll quickly move on from this particular one. And I wish that every country in the world had archives as good as Australian ones. But if you're not in that lucky category, this is a website of the National Institute, the Institute of National Remembrance. So it's a Polish website, and as I said earlier, it is a little bit clunky in that it's a bit hard to look for things. But here's a button that's szukaj, and that means search in Polish. So I'll show you the types of things you can find. So if I was to put Marcinkowski, let's put Marcinkowska, and you can populate it with other information. So the reason I'm not putting anything else is that often names are misspelled, and the search function in here isn't particularly useful. But for example, if I knew the place of birth or date of birth, I could put that information here. So let's have a look what we find. That says that there are too many people with that name, so we'll have to let's say 1905. Let's see if we can find somebody with that surname who was born in 1905. Okay, and we do. So although this doesn't look like a lot, but here you can see date of birth and place of birth, and in the case of Amelia, date of death. So if we go in here, there's a lot of information about what's actually happened to Emilia. So she died in 1943, and so she was about 38 years old, and she died in the city of Mnichov. And she died, she was part of the partisan brigade. And the Wehrmacht soldiers, the SS and Wehrmacht soldiers, did what they call pacification of village. So they were just basically kicking out people out of there. And there's pretty full-on description here of her body, and that it was burned, and that she was buried in that village, and then they built that monument, you know, for her. In here, you'll also see that there are other people who died in the same execution, and people who died, you know, alongside with her, in that village. So within that, so this is a whole list of people linked. You know, there's a few hundred people, 203 people that died in that particular action by the Germans. So most of the information here is post 1939. But you can find information about army service. You know, often we find siblings of people, or we can sort of start painting a picture. There may be POW records. There's all kinds of things you can find here, and sometimes you find nothing. So it's a hit and miss. It's not a very comprehensive website, but it has really good records for anyone whose family was in Poland during the war, mostly. But sometimes those that were there just after the war, okay? And mostly those that were either taken to Germany as slave laborers or were POWs in Germany. This website, on the other hand, is even clunkier than the other one I showed you, because the research search function here is pretty difficult to do. But let us try our Marcinkowska surname. And you'll see the amazing things that you can find. So mostly in this database, you'll find records of people that were deported to Siberia. And mostly, but not always, these people prior to the war, or just at the beginning of the war, lived in what today is Ukraine and Belarus. Not everybody. But I'll show you, for example, for Anna. She was born in 1891, and there's a very detailed description of how she was taken to Siberia and when she was taken and where she ended up. And there are records described here in a lot of detail about what happened. So potentially, if you find something like that here on your family, you can request these documents. Again, this is held by the Polish government. It's the Institute of National Remembrance, just like this one. It's just a different database, yeah? For people that went to Germany, though, this is a really, really amazing website that has, again, everything on everybody. And I think most of the records are post-war, but there are records kept here dating from about 1933. So let me just show you what we can find here. Search and explore, search online. Okay, good. Let me just have a look. And these records have only been made available quite recently, probably around 5 years ago. So the German government kept it, and I guess for privacy reasons, or perhaps other reasons, that you had to write to them to be able to request this. But nowadays, pretty much you can find everything online. So we're going to try our tried and tested surname. And here you can include synonyms. So sometimes if you're not quite sure about the spelling, or you know the beginning of the surname or whatever, you can do that. But I'll do one without it. Okay, and okay. So let's see. Who is here? Like, I don't know why all these other surnames are coming back. But let's see Bronisława Marcinkowska. So you see here on this side of the screen that there are scans of this person's records kept in Bad Arolsen. So this used to be managed by the International Red Cross. It is now handled by the German government. or the archives, and they do exchange a lot of these records with Poland. So the first database that I showed you sometimes has crossover documents. But anyway, if you look here, you will be able to find things like her date of birth. And it also tells you where she was based. So some of these records are really, really detailed and include, let me just click on it. Again, you'll have things like medical records. A lot of them are in German, but some are in Polish, some are in English as well. If we look at this one again, it's the same person, but you see how the place of her birth is spelled differently. It's really spelled Katory, K-A-C-Z-R-Y, but somebody's misspelled it. And there are records of her being in concentration camps in Buchenwald. For anyone whose family has been through the camps, you can imagine how emotional it can be to find these records. And these are amazing, amazing records because her parents are listed. Her journey through different camps is listed here. So she was in Buchenwald, then she was in Ravensbrück. And you can see that there's a number of records here. And there's even a list of things that she carried on her. So Germans in 1944 kept a record of what she had on her. So again, this archive, and that's her signature. That's her own signature, as you can see, is full of nuggets like that. And again, strongly encourage you to have a go. The last set of documents I wanted to show you is managed by the Polish Genealogical Society. It's geneteka.genealogy.pl, and again, it has some records, some not so great. But I come from the Łódzkie Voivodeship, so let me see if we can find and who we can find. So what I did just there is I picked the region that my family comes from the map, and I will now search for everybody with that surname. And here you can actually go back many centuries, and some of them have got scans. So the area of Central Poland, records are really well preserved. So this, Regina, who was my great grandmother. No, she wasn't. I'm making that up, but it's a pretty popular surname. But let's see what we can find. So this takes you usually to another website, which I cannot sign in right now, but there'll be a scan. So some of them go to the Polish archives, others go to other archives, but you can go back many generations. Okay, same thing. So you have birth records, marriage records, and death records, and you can click on precise search, so it'll just look for that surname. You can also look for people that are couples, and you can divide this into parishes. So you can if you don't really know where your family might come from, you can click to search within 15 kilometers of the place that you know about here. So if something says scan, it is, I'm going to give it one last try. No, it's not going to work. But you can get a free subscription to Family Search, which is the database that's connected to this, and you can have a look. But again, that's really interesting way of searching for your family records. And it is in English. Again, it's a bit clunky, it's a bit antiquated, but if you have a bit of patience, you can find some really amazing things. You could spend hours and hours here. I promise you that. So how are we going for time? Let me just say, okay, we've got a couple of minutes left, so I'll show you my favorite database in the entire world. And I'll explain to you what that is. Let me just search. So in 1926, the US was celebrating 100 50th anniversary of its inception or confederation. So I don't quite know who, but somebody came up with the idea of collecting signatures of school children. And they gathered about 5.5 million of signatures through this. So I'll show you what the kind of things you can find. So basically, they had these commemorative books, which they then donated to the government of the US. But these are real signatures of real children and teachers. Let me just find one so I can show you. And we have been able to find our clients' ancestral signatures here too. Yeah, so that's a good example. Let me just, and it's free, it's available. Let me have a look. So I can save it. Can I just, yeah, I'll just make it bigger. So this, what I'm showing you is signatures of real people, students, but also teachers and school administrators. So on this particular website, you can find, you know, nuggets like that are just amazing. Whenever we've been able to find signatures of our clients' ancestors, that, you know, sometimes includes great-great-grandparents, it's a very emotional moment, because sometimes they've never met them, or they don't even have a photo. So seeing someone's signature is pretty priceless. So that is me for today. We do have about 5 minutes for questions. Over to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Eva. We have 4 or 5 questions on the list. Someone is asking, what if I can't find online information about my ancestors or about my family record? Is there any other option to do research?
Yeah, so what I was showing you is probably, I can't estimate, but I would say that it's probably about 1% of what you can actually find. So if you think of Poland as a country that's 1,000 years old, you can imagine how many records they have. So some of them are fragmented, but, you know, there are church records, there are civil records, there are archival records, there are notary public records, you know, local government records. It's massive resources, right? So not everything can be put online. Like over the last, say, 10 years, a really big effort has been made to digitalize things, but I would still think that mostly you do have to write to the archives and ask from what's called a manual search for them to find documents that they have in books. So they'll have, you know, records are kept in special books in which the birth certificate might exist. So what I showed you is just a snippet of what you can actually find, and sometimes you get lucky and find things online, but mostly you don't. Yeah.
Do you need to pay a subscription to look for records in these websites?
No, everything's free, and we are more than happy to share that with you. You know, so to take away the mystery out of researching, you know, all of this is available, and there's also a very big website by the Polish government called Szukaj w Archiwach, and in there are more. Like, we only have half an hour, so I wasn't able to show you everything. But it's all free. You just have to be persistent, patient, try a variety of spelling. And there's all kinds of creative ways that you have to look for records, and you have to spend a lot of time actually. But yeah, all of it is free.
If I'm not sure of the correct spelling of my Polish ancestor, can I still find some information on this website? Yeah,
for sure. So I showed you that a couple of them have phonetic or close spelling. There's also something called soundex, so they try and match it and expand the spelling that you know to other varieties of how the name could have been written. Sometimes some of it is a bit of a red herring sort of journey, only because you know, it's like a rabbit hole. You just get yourself into looking for more and more and more, but it'll give you clues, and you know, just with a bit of patience and persistence, I'm sure most records can be found in Poland, unless, you know, we're talking Warsaw or a village that was burned down to the ground. But you know what Paulina has mentioned earlier is that they fragmented in that sometimes you can find siblings but not the applicants. So it just really depends, it varies.
Last question would be, how do I know what sort of documents I need to look for on this website? Or should I just put the name of my ancestor in there and see what happened?
Yeah, I think see what happens is the best way to do it, because sometimes just by looking around you find the most unusual things. But I think most people that do family research as a hobby are very, very structured, and you'll see like people have accounts on ancestry.com with massive family trees, and it's like a lifelong passion. And sometimes you just get lucky. You type in like we sometimes have clients who, look what I found, and it's a birth certificate from someone from 1685 or something like that, and it's just by accident really. But I think being methodical and structured and well organized is key to family research and genealogical research, and that's why we are so lucky to have Paulina on board, because she's a very, very well organized person, and she's an amazing multitasker, let me tell you.
I have one more question, guys. So if I have the Polish passport of my grandmother, wouldn't that be enough to apply for my Polish citizenship? Why do I need to do a research?
Okay, so Polish passports are great, but it depends on who issued them. So, for example, if it was issued by a consulate, sometimes they didn't follow proper procedures and just gave passports to people that turned up and say, hey, I'm Polish. But also we need to at least try and find a birth certificate for that person. So passports are wonderful. We love them. I think, they're 90% of the journey, but it's that 10% that might sometimes be what's required. And, we just go by what the Polish government says that they want, and there's no checklist. So it's a bit discretionary, I guess. So they might, for example, want us to prove that somebody was married, or that somebody was born at a particular date. So it just really depends on what we're talking about. But to answer that question, passports are amazing, but they might require to be supplemented by additional records.
All right, thank you so much, guys.
Paulina, thank you so much for being part of this. I know I've done a lot of talking. Next time, when you're less jet lagged, you're going to be it. But thank you everyone so much for being part of today. And enjoy Poland. We're very, very jealous, let me tell you.
It's really hot in here. So yeah, I come from a mountain, so it's really strange right now. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least you can go for a walk. Well, maybe not.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks again. And thank you, Angie, for being wonderful behind the scenes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.